Welcome back to Bleav in Softball, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Jenna, and however you got here today, whether you downloaded the audio version on Apple, Spotify, etc., or you're watching the video on YouTube, thank you and welcome back. Subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your pods. Follow us on Instagram and X at Bleav in Softball. That's BLEAV. And don't forget about the merch. Click the link in our bio on either page or go to shop.bleav.com to purchase 3 different shirts available, covering our bases, safer out, and catch you soon. All right, let's go through today's lineup. First, we will be covering our bases. I'm going to share some call-outs. Then we'll head into today's interview with Holly Rowe, obviously an ESPN reporter, champion of women's sports, who's been covering softball and showing up on our TVs at the World Series and beyond for decades. And now we have officially had the entire ESPN A team from the broadcast on this show. Jessica Mendoza, Michele Smith, Beth Mowins earlier this season, and now Holly. I hung out with all of them in OKC and had a chance to chat with Holly again right before the AUSL Championship this summer. I'm excited for you to hear it. Then we'll bring it home and wrap up with some final thoughts. All right, let's go. Covering our bases. We're back with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They have a little bit of almost everything when it comes to sports betting, but let's be honest, summer is for the diamond sports. And in the MLB, FanDuel has the Dodgers favored to win the World Series again. And as a SoCal native, yes, my family would be more than okay with that, especially my nephew and my uncle. But not everyone agrees. What do you think about a potential lockout? Let me know your thoughts. And check out all the World Series odds and more in FanDuel Sportsbook, because no matter what you're into, there's something for you. So check out all that FanDuel has to offer, from same-game parlays and more, because we believe in softball and we believe in FanDuel. And we believe in summer softball. Every year, this is a very fun time of year, and it has been especially fun on the pro side as we got to see champions crowned. So for the AUSL Championship, the Talons go back to back, and I have to right off the bat say, congrats to 6 different Bleavers who've been on the show: the general manager, Lisa Fernandez, head coach, Cindy Ball Malone, and players Megan Framo, Taylor Tinsley, Charlize Palacios, and Hannah Flippin. The play-in game with the Portland Cascade and Chicago Bandits to get to the Champ Series, that went 11 innings and did not disappoint. But then once we got to the Champ Series, congrats to the Bandits and the Talons on making history with the most watched game in the history of pro softball. That was Champ Series Game 1. It was already the first pro softball game on broadcast television. It was on ABC, but it also averaged 732,000 viewers. And then the AUSL batting champ and bandit, Skylar Wallace, hit a league record 500 on the season. 30 out of 36 players for Team USA also compete in the AUSL as well. So more on that in a bit. Up next is the All-Star Cup. The season starts this weekend. It's August 8th through the 30th in Rosemont, Illinois. Just a reminder that 11 out of 45 players, so about 25% of them, are Bleavers. We love to see it. Tiari Jennings, Megan Framo, Amber Pfizer, Hannah Flippin, Rachel Garcia, Sydney McKinney, Charlize Palacios, Carlin Pickens, Kaylani Ricketts, Sydney Stewart, and Jessie Warren. All 6 AUSL teams are represented in the All-Star Cup. And also, it's the original fantasy team type format that Athletes Unlimited launched with back in 2020. Early days of this show as well, and we get more pro softball. So keep up at theausl.com. And then the PSL, Pro Softball League postseason, is happening now. It's August 5th through the 8th in Alabama, so keep up at professionalsoftballleague.com. Back to the international stuff. Just wrapped up at Devon Park in Oklahoma City, the International Cup, and the USA Women's National Team beat #1 world-ranked Japan to take home the gold. The MVP of the tournament was Maya Brady, defensive MVP Deja Molipola, and the most valuable pitcher Montana Fouts. So she gets that at the International Cup, gets it in the AUSL for Pitcher of the Year. She's on a roll right now. Just call her Montana Outs. That's what I like to call her because she gets so many. But congratulations to 4 Bleavers as well, in Tiari Jennings, Hannah Flippin, Rachel Garcia, and Carlin Pickens, who earned that gold with that team. But don't forget about the USA Elite team as well, who beat Canada to take 3rd place. So congrats to 5 Bleavers there: Nigel Kennedy, Megan Framo, Charlize Palacios, Kaylani Ricketts, and Sydney McKinney. 11 total Bleavers, though, with both teams for USA. So I have to say also congratulations to 2 other Bleavers. USA assistant coaches Jen Rocha from OU and Trisha Ford, the head coach at Texas A&M. They're both on staff as well. And all of this just pumps us up even more on the road to the 2028 Olympics. And in case you missed it, I talked with Tiara Jennings about it on the last episode, so check it out if you're interested. But where it started for a lot of these players was in travel ball, and nationals just wrapped up as well. PGF just finished in Irvine, California. Champions were crowned from 10 and under to 18 and under, and the way they organize it is different divisions based on level. So for the 18 and under division, the premier champions, congratulations to Georgia Impact Taylor, and the platinum champions, congratulations to Athletics Mercado Hovermail Potter. They won, and they are able to hoist that trophy and go home very proud. The Alliance Fast Pitch also wrapped up at the end of July in Indiana. That was also 10U through 18U, and they compete in tiers based on performance in regionals because the format is more like a college postseason. So for the 18 and under division in general, the Tier 1 champions, Orange County Batbusters, Stith. So shout out to head of the org, Mike Stith, a Bleaver who's been on the show and a previous coach for multiple Bleavers that have also been on the show. Tier 2 champions were Virginia Glory Williamson, and then Tier 3 champs, the Chicago Cheetahs Connolly. So just congratulations to all of them. And I think something that sticks out to me there is the geographical spread of the champions. Obviously, a couple of SoCal teams, but Virginia, Chicago, you have a mix there with Georgia. It's sort of all over the place. And I think, let alone at the younger levels, 10 through 16U, it just speaks to the growth of the game. And some of these champs will be playing college ball for the 2027 season, so we can't wait to watch them. Then some updates from me. It is, as we've talked about before, the WPBL inaugural season. So the Women's Professional Baseball League kicked off this past weekend after more than 70 years of waiting. Women's pro baseball is back in the U.S. This is for the first time since the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League in the 1940s and 50s. They say there's no crying in baseball, but I think there were plenty of happy tears from where I was sitting. And we talked about it a bit with Olivia Pichardo when she came on the show. I mean, every softball and women's baseball player's favorite movie basically is A League of Their Own. And this league is it reincarnated. And surprise, I did color commentary for opening weekend this past weekend here in Springfield, Illinois. And they're actually playing the whole season, all the teams at Robin Roberts Stadium here. There's a lot of players as well who have dabbled in softball. The number 1 draft pick, Kelsey Whitmore, she played softball at Fullerton. The LA Queens captain, Ashton Lansdale, she went to the Women's College World Series with Ole Miss back in 2025, and plenty more. So it's an epic crossover, truly, and being a part of just telling their stories and commemorating all the historic firsts in this league, like the first home run from New York Heights captain Danae Benitez, it doesn't get any better than that for me personally. So you can watch the games in the US on ESPN Plus, and some are also on Scripps for free. And for those outside the US, check it out on YouTube. You can also follow the league at WPBL_official on social, and the 4 teams, the LA Queens, New York Heights, San Francisco Firebells, and the Boston Hunters. And of course, on the softball side, can't forget it. D1 softball still has summer softball coverage and college offseason content. All of that still continues on the website at d1softball.com and social media channels on Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, etc. at D1 Softball. And someone who's keeping up with all of it and more across women's sports is today's guest. So let's head into the interview.
She's a longtime ESPN journalist, Hall of Fame reporter, Emmy winner, cancer survivor, and Joy+Us Foundation founder, Holly Rowe. Holly, thank you for being here. I'm thrilled about this.
I'm so excited.
It was so great to not only see you at the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City, but to meet you officially for the first time.
I know. I've been watching your show and listening to your podcast for a long time, so it was really fun to hang out. You came to breakfast with us. We had a great time, so it was good to hang.
It was just so nice to see you guys. Obviously, you and Beth and Jess and Michelle do your thing together, and you've been doing it together for years. But it was also nice to see you all just be friends. Also, I think in Oklahoma City, and you had shared a little bit about just how close you all are, and I just think that comes through when you work together too.
Yeah, I think, chemistry is a real thing, and it's in real life, and whatever energy you put out is real. So yeah, they're incredible women, incredible commentators first and foremost, but really incredible women as well.
I also appreciated, so I did get to go to your Joy+Us Foundation event
Yay.
in Oklahoma City, and hearing all of you on a panel that your son actually led, and he was fantastic, by the way. He was hilarious.
He's
Unnatural.
adorable.
I could see where he gets it though, because he was a total natural. It was great. But I love the story that you shared about, all of the accolades that like Jess and Michele have, for example, for softball, and that Beth would call you the Hall of Fame Stadium reporter, Holly Rowe. And then,
it was such an awkward thing. So early in my years covering the World Series, Beth comes on the air and she's like, I'm Beth Mowins. I'm here with, 3-time Olympic gold medalist Michele Smith and Jessica Mendoza and Holly Rowe. And it was always like such a downer, and Holly. And so then I would say that I was like, God, it's such a downer. And so she started, it used to be called Hall of Fame Stadium for the World Series. And so she'd always say Hall of Fame Stadium reporter, Holly Rowe. And so we would get such a kick out of that. And she did that for years. And then finally one year I got put into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame as the Kurt Gowdy Award winner. And so I was like, literally the second they called me to say that I was in this Hall of Fame, the only thing I could think of was like, oh my gosh, thank God Beth Mowins can now stop saying stadium. She can just say Hall of Fame reporter. That was like my first thought. I'm finally worthy to be working with these women.
Oh man, it was so funny. That's why I had to put that in there, of course.
Yeah.
Your intro, Hall of Fame reporter, because A, it's true, but B, because of that story as well.
Yes.
But between Beth Mowins, Jessica Mendoza, Michele Smith, they all give you a ton of credit for just your storytelling. Also, I mean, when I think of storytelling in sports, you're one of the first people that I think of, and I just remember you running all around what used to be Hall of Fame Stadium, and just digging into people's stories and going beyond just the athlete. And I just have always appreciated that about your work.
Well, we have that in common. I feel like you do a really good job with that too, because you're trying to get to the essence of these athletes and, what made this performance special, what made today special, what makes this team special. I think we're always trying to dig to that for the fans. We want fans to be informed, because I feel like the more you kind of get interested in someone from a personal standpoint, ESPN always has these kind of, stats people, and they're like, if we can get people to have a rooting interest, they will stay and watch longer, and that it's just true. Like I was thinking about this with the World Cup going on. I don't know anything about the World Cup soccer. It's just not a sport that I really follow, just peripherally. I was totally into the World Cup because they were telling me about this young man whose mother walked from Ghana while she was pregnant. Now I care if he wins the World Cup or not. You know what I mean? Like it really, I think once you feel some kind of attachment or emotional connection with someone, you're going to stay and watch how they perform. So one, I just love the stories. I think it's kind of the fabric of the game. But two, I do think it's, necessary for our jobs. We want people to watch and listen and subscribe and all the things. So I think it's, a wonderful thing.
It is. And you do a really nice job of it, honestly. And even just, I feel like just going above and beyond is part of your DNA as well. For example, when there were technical difficulties on ABC Day at the World Series this year, you're live streaming the game from down where you're sitting on the field, because you're like, no, the fans need to be able to have this access. Like that, I felt like just spoke a lot to your character.
Oh my gosh, that was such a crazy experience because, one of our transformers, we're having generators, and it wasn't a transformer, it was a generator. But all of a sudden, like I don't hear anymore. And then I'm like, hey, can you guys hear me? They can't hear me. Then I see my camera guy just put his camera down, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we're dead. Everything's dead. The power's out. But everything was still on in the stadium. And so I knew right away, this was our TV truck compound issue, not the stadium issue. So the game was going to keep going, whether we were doing it or not. Right. And I just kind of panicked in that moment. And I was like, I wonder if it's okay if I live stream it. So I just started, and I figured, if they don't want me doing it, someone will tell me. I later talked with the NCAA rep, Natalie, who I adore. And she was like, yeah, we had a conversation about it, but we were like, hey, if people can see the game this way, that's okay. Because there's rights issues and all the things. But I was like, if nothing else is working, we have to let fans see what's going on, because the game's continuing. Right. So that was crazy. And it went on for a while. I think at one point I might have had like maybe 8,000 people on my live stream because, people were figuring out they could see it. So hopefully that provided some kind of good service for the fans.
I think it did. I mean, I know some people at home who were like, "Oh, thank God we could at least watch it this way," you know.
Good.
And again, I think that just goes back to how you are, you know, thinking about the audience and the fans and serving them.
Yeah, that's literally our number one motto at ESPN. Like right when you walk in the door, it's like we serve the fans. Like we work for the fans. We work for you. So I think that's kind of our DNA as a company.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. And, you know, obviously we know, especially and love you from the perspective of this show in the softball world, but you're one of the most versatile talents at ESPN, really. I mean, multiple sports, multiple different types of roles that you also do. What does, you know, zooming out from softball, what does a year look like for you in terms of your coverage?
Yeah, it's really wild because in my brain, I feel like I work really hard from August till June, so like the college sports calendar rhythm, because I cover mostly college sports. And so in my brain, I'll be like, okay, I can make it from August to June. I grind, I work so hard. And then in June, I can come up for air. And then I'm like, Holly, you're crazy because then you start the WNBA and you work the W all summer. And I work the W a lot. So it's so funny. But because this is going to sound awful, but in my brain, the WNBA is my passion project and my happy place. So I feel like that's something I do for me. And that's kind of like my hobby. So that's going to sound crazy, but like, yeah, I do work year round, but in my brain, I only work August through June. But anyway, I used to do 8 sports for ESPN, which back in the day, I think back on that, and like the older you get, you kind of look back on things you're proud of. I'm really proud of that. I don't know if anyone else at ESPN has ever done that. And, like I was like the lead reporter on 8 different sports at one time. And I think that's really, versatile and says something about my drive and ambition, but also my love for those sports. And then I got cancer. And so I had to cut back on work and, like just my body, I couldn't handle it physically. And so I had to cut back on some things. So I had to give up gymnastics and, beach volleyball, indoor volleyball, a few things I have cut back on. I cut back on men's basketball recently because I'm just working too much. And so I had to really assess like what are my passions, what can I not live without. And so right now I'm down to 4 sports. So that's college football, women's college basketball, WNBA, and softball. So these are my 4 children and babies, and I care for them each equally and love them so much.
Well, softball made the cut. We love
yes yes, of course.
Not surprised, just given how much that you've done for the sport over all the years that you've been working it. But it's nice to know that like that is right up there with basketball and football, right? To your point, everything you just listed out, that softball's on that growth.
Yeah. And it's something, again, the older you get, the more you try to think about what has been successful in your life. And the one thing I'm really proud of is many years ago, I worked an event, a Division III national championship college football game. And the coach, Frosty Westring, for one of the teams said, make the big time where you are. Meaning stop chasing the big time. The big time should be where you are. And so I've really lived my life by that. And so like I would do softball and I really appreciate it. I remember Patrick Murphy and some of the Alabama girls being like, we love it that you're here doing college football, in the fall, but that you still love us. Like to them, that meant something that I'm on the very biggest games and very biggest show, but I still care about softball because I should, because softball is my big time. So I think it's important that we pay attention and shine our light on, where our big time is. And for me, it's been softball. And so it's been super rewarding that now softball is becoming into the big time. And so, I feel kind of like a proud mom that's been, ushering this sport into this next generation. There's been a lot of people working hard behind the scenes for a long time. Our boss at ESPN, Meg Aronowitz, Beth Mowins has been, really the caretaker of the record book and the history, and Michelle and Jess and Amanda and Danielle Lore. We have a long list. Nick Root is our new boss too. Evan Cohen, we've got a new boss. So there's a long, big group of people who are really stewarding softball into this next phase, which is big time. We outrated the Men's College World Series again. This is huge.
Well, and you were a part of that during the early days. Also, yes. I think like you said, now it is becoming the big time. The growth is incredible, both in person and in terms of TV coverage. But what made you choose and decide that you wanted to do softball even before it got as mainstream as it is now?
Yeah, so I probably, because I loved it as a sport, I grew up playing softball a lot. My dad played on a city league team, and he was a really good player. So our family grew up playing softball. Um, Unfortunately, I'm old enough that we did not have a high school softball team, so I had to play rec league and church softball. But I grew up playing softball my whole life, and I probably am like, it's probably one of my regrets in life that I didn't get to play in college or get to pursue that dream further, because I'm built for softball. Like my body, I'm a really good player. I can hit. I could have been a contender, Jenna. I could have been a contender. So I think there's a huge piece of that is like, I truly love the sport. I've played it. I love it. I'm interested in it. So I think that's the primary thing, is I am absolutely interested in it. And I'm interested in why things are happening and why can she throw this pitch here? And, the why of the game still really fascinates me.
Yes, that is very much, the analysis part. And you've also done that. I mean, recently you stepped in as a game analyst for some women's basketball, in addition to, obviously, we all have seen you on the sidelines for so much of your career. But I feel like I do see that in your work where you're digging into some of that as well.
Yeah, some of my favorite things I ever do are like when I do a story or I talk about something that I have observed and I throw it back to the booth, and Michele will be like, exactly, Holly, blah, blah, blah. And it initiates a conversation with Michele or Jessica. Like we had something this year I was really proud of, where we were talking about, oh my gosh, Texas softball, and their best hitter. She had made an adjustment to have her elbow up, Katie Stewart, and her posture of how she was hitting and when she was low, and how it would impact how her hands were getting to the ball, and having that elbow up was making her timing and her ability to get out. So like, hey, Katie's elbow's up. Hey, Katie's in her squat stand. Like I'm trying to hit the producer, like, this is what we talked about, so that they can then clip it, and then we talk about it, and then Jess can telestrate it. And or we've had some things with pitching stuff, like, hey, Tegan Caban had been really working in her career the last 2 years before this year about not falling off on her stride.
Right.
She would tend to fall off, and that would impact things. So then we dig into it further this year, and she's like, well, actually, on one of my pitches, it does help me if I fall off, but she's trying not to tip her pitch, so like we can get into these conversations that are very nuanced about what we're observing from a physical standpoint and how that might impact the outcome of the play. We had a really interesting conversation this year with Reese Atwood on, if you watch her behind the plate, one of the best catchers in the game, she doesn't have both knees up all the time like catchers do. They're usually in that squat. Sometimes she'll have her right knee down. Sometimes both knees are up. Sometimes her left knee is down. And we've figured out it's blocking for particular pitches, but she's trying not to tip a pitch on if her knee is down, or is there a runner at third that then she can put the force of that throw, she's going to throw to third on that left leg, or so there's like all these intricacies in the game that are so fascinating, and I really like digging into those. But my proudest moments are if Michele or Jess will be like, oh my gosh, that was so good, that helped us talk about blah, blah. Like if I can be any kind of little plant a seed or observe something that then gets them talking about it, that's when I feel like I really did a good job.
Yeah, because you're the team on the broadcast. Like that's an assist for your teammate.
Exactly. An assist. Yeah. Great way to say it.
Yeah. And, I think when we listen to you guys all have these conversations, you always do feel like you're on the same team.
Yeah.
I think that's important because there's also a lot of preparation that goes into this. I don't know that people outside of TV or media really understand all of the hours that go into it prior to even being on the air. What does your preparation look like for something like the World Series?
Yeah, you've got to go back and watch games. So I'm a firm believer as a sideline reporter, I can't just read stuff or look at their social media things. Like I have to watch the games for what I notice. So, like I'm trying to think of a good example of that, but I will notice something in watching a playback or a game back, and then I can follow up with the athlete. Hey, why are you doing this? Or what does this mean? Or, sometimes they're cute, silly stories. One story I never got on this year that I'm so mad about. So LSU would have all these cute things in their dugout, like these little squishy dumpling things. Like I didn't know anything about this, and now I've realized what a big deal they are. So that Beth Tarina is telling me this cute story about how, road trips can be long and boring. And so they got into this routine this year that on road trips for LSU, the team bus would pull up or people would go individually to Five Below. I had never been in a Five Below store in my life. Sorry, that's just not my demographic. So when we're at the SEC tournament in Lexington this year, they've told me this story. And so Beth Mowins and I go to Five Below. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been missing out on all this great stuff. And we get all these funny things from Five Below. And I am all ready to do like a report with this little megaphone and dumpling. And we had a disco ball in the booth in Lexington. I don't know if people remember this, but at one point in the games, Kevin Brown was like, I just noticed there's a disco ball in the booth. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's our Five Below story. Yeah. But then the way the game was going, and because LSU wasn't particularly playing well, I don't want to do like a fun, silly story that then makes it look like maybe they weren't serious. But, so I really try to have the good timing for when these kind of fun stories fit. But we never got the Five Below story in. But now I'm on top of dumplings, and it was a cute way for Beth Tarina and her team. She texted me later in the season and was like, we finally found the dumplings. We're going to win today. And I think they did, it's so funny of what teams believe or what superstitions they believe.
That is awesome. I have never been to Five Below either. So now that's on my list.
It's going to blow your mind. I never stepped foot. I didn't even really know. I thought it was like maybe teeny bopper clothes. I didn't even know what it was. It's like they have some really cute, cool. I mean, this is obviously we're not doing a commercial for Five Below, but the stories you uncover in softball lead you to strange places or wonderful places.
Well, and I think what this brings up for me is, we're talking about preparation. There's an inherent curiosity that you have. Like a lot of what you've mentioned is like, well, I'll notice something and then I ask questions about it. I think that's really actually crucial for life and all kinds of careers, not just this one.
Yeah, I think it's probably my best asset as a person in general is I am very curious about everyone. Now, that can backfire on me because sometimes you'll be asking questions and people are like, enough with the questions, Holly. Like I'm probably like that annoying little kid, like, mom, mom, mom. But it serves me well in my job, and I think it serves the fans well. I can just think of so many wonderful stories through the years that I've done because I was curious about something. One of my favorites, this is a wonderful story. One of my favorites was when Monica Abbott was pitching at Tennessee. She gets them to the World Series. They're right on the brink of winning a national championship. And Pat Summitt came to the game. And so I'm talking to Pat Summitt in the stands, and she's like, well, Holly, I had to cancel I'm on vacation in Destin, and I had to fly up here. But I made a commitment to Monica Abbott. I'm doing a bad Pat Summitt accent, but when Monica Abbott was getting recruited at Tennessee from California, they brought her in to visit with Pat, Karen and Ralph Weekly. And Pat said, if you ever get to the World Series, I will be there sitting in the front row cheering for you. And so Pat, true to her word, Monica Abbott gets Tennessee to the Women's College World Series for the first time in history. And Pat Summitt, in the middle of her vacation, flies to Oklahoma City and sits in the front row because she told that kid she would. Like stories like that. Like I wouldn't have discovered that unless I was like, oh my gosh, Pat Summitt's here. Why would Pat Summitt be at softball? Like how your mind goes. One other really favorite story is Taryn Moa. The legendary story. She pitched over 1,000 pitches in the Women's College World Series to win it for Arizona. And, this is weird. I always check the pitcher's hands because, over the course and the way the World Series used to be of them pitching every day, we didn't have the breaks in between. People would get blisters. Pitchers often get where their nail bed separates from their finger right here and will get bloody. And her finger, because of the changeup and how she was putting pressure right there on that contact point on her changeup, her finger was a mess. She had a blister. It was bleeding. And they were concocting this. I'll have to go back and find this report because I think it was like honey or I don't know, but they were concocting like a natural remedy that was like in a jar that they were putting on Taryn Moat's finger to get her through the World Series because she was literally hanging on by a fingernail. Just little crazy stories like that through the years you discover. Megan Langenfeld at UCLA she had a split in her pitching hand because of her, oh God, I'm forgetting, maybe it was a screwball, forgetting what her famous pitch was.
Definitely screwball.
Yeah, I think it was the screwball. And the way that put pressure on the one fingernail, so she was super gluing her fingernail and crack together to finish out the World Series. So these are little crazy little random stories that you run across just because you're a nosy busybody.
Man, this is so fascinating. I have been personally victimized by Megan Langenfeld's screwball. So
So you here, yeah.
so I can appreciate
It's the
this.
screwball.
I'm like, yep, clock it.
That's not it. I know this bitch.
But yes, I mean, those are the fascinating bits. I mean, to your point, like those are the things that got you interested in the World Cup, right? Is more of like those types of stories. And I think that you've just been so good at that across different sports. And I don't think that's easy to do either. And I've appreciated that as well.
Oh, thank you. It's super fun. Like I love uncovering the little hidden nuggets. Like one of my favorite stories this year from college football was on game day, Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who ended up winning the Heisman and going number 1 in the NFL draft. He watches mass online before the game. And I'm just like, this is so cute. And he takes his rosary beads on the bus with him and says his rosary. And just, highlighting these little sweet details that make people human and what they do to compete and be at their best. So I loved his story about his online mass practice for his faith and his religion every game day.
Yeah, it's the person behind the athlete, like you said, as well. I think another thing that stands out to me too is just the grind for your approach, like your work ethic to getting all of these stories, because they don't just appear, you have to answer questions, but the grind. I mean, you said some very kind words to me in Oklahoma City, which honestly I needed at the time. I was tired, right? It's the World Series. We're all at the peak of the college season at that point. And the grind is hard. But I feel like you do it very gracefully. And I think that's a good example.
Yeah, I think that's an important message to your listeners or to young people is, you get to see these very glamorous moments, or people get to see you interviewing someone after a big moment at the World Series. And they don't understand that you had to drive thousands of miles and fly and be at practices and be hot. They don't understand that there was a lot of things that went into you having the privilege to be there in that moment. I'll give you an example is I got to cover Caitlin Clark, every record she set in college basketball, her senior season for Iowa. And I was at every single game where she broke a record. What people don't realize is I was flying into Chicago at 5 a.m. and driving for 3 hours to get to Ames, Iowa, or to Iowa City, driving to Des Moines to have conversations with her parents. I'm driving in blizzards. I remember calling my son one day, driving from Chicago to Iowa City. It was a massive blizzard. Semis are, pulled off the road. And I called my son. I said, I need you to know where I am because I'm scared. And if I get blown off the road or I lose cell service or something, I need you to know where I am because this is really scary. So we are out here. It's hard. It is really hard. And this is not just it seems super glamorous. And there are moments that it is glamorous. But if I don't put in all that hard work and show up for these things and grind, then I'm not the person that gets to have these really special, cool moments when she does set the record or, when they are hitting the home run or the walk-off at the World Series. We got to do that because we drove to Starkville or we survived 1,000 love bugs on us in Gainesville, Florida, so that we could be there for that series. That was the worst working experience of my life. That we have to grind it and you sacrifice, but it's so worth it. So the glamorous part's not the part, it's the hard work part that they have to do. So it pays off.
I remember talking about the love bugs in
Oklahoma
City. Couldn't
the
be
worst.
named. The name does not align with the experience.
Well, why they call them those is because they're flying through the air, joined, copulating. And so there's not one bug, it's 2 bugs flying through the air. And so I was covered, the players were covered. It was so gross. They said that's very unusual. It has not been that bad before. So I'm sorry for the Gators, but That was one I had to fight through. I was almost like, I might have to call in and say, I can't do this game tomorrow because of the bugs. I'm not calling in sick. I'm calling in ick.
Yeah. Honestly, fair. Because even on TV, watching it was like, wow, I don't remember ever seeing it like this, quite
gross.
like this.
Yeah, it was gross.
But that's another aspect, at least for the outdoor sports like softball, where you're in the elements as a
Yeah.
sideline reporter. You're not just comfy in the air conditioning or the heat in the booth. You're out there,
Yeah.
dealing with all of it. There's something about that could be satisfying, but like that's also hard as well.
It's also hard. Yeah. I mean, this is so weird if you think about it this way, but like I went through, you mentioned I went through a cancer battle a few years ago, and it was really serious, but it was melanoma. It was skin cancer, and it started with a spot on my chest. And it's because I've worked outdoors my whole career, from college football to softball. And the amount of sunburns I've gotten just because softball, you get sunburned. It's so I have to be really careful now, because what I didn't know, and maybe your listeners don't know, is melanoma can kill you. It can spread really fast. It ended up spreading to my lungs, almost killing me. And so like my work outdoors has actually been really hard. So now I am like trying to cover up, trying to slather in sunscreen, and I see people out at the ballpark just like sun tanning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could scream at you and tell you this is so dangerous. But so softball parents or players that are listening to this, like the sun is the most dangerous it's ever been, and no tan is safe. I really love, there's a lot of players now, like I can think of Skylar Wallace is one that pops in my head. She is always in the long sleeves, like always like covered up. I just think that is so important to protect your skin. So anyway, I digress. But yes, working outside, I have put in some long, hot, really sweaty days at the ballpark, but I wouldn't change anything in the world for it.
But you've also, from your experience with cancer, you've really become just somebody who talks a lot about prevention. You try to bring awareness to it. You talk about how it's really changed you as a person as well, not just the physical aspects, but you as a person, you as a professional. Getting to see the Joy+Us Foundation event that I got to see as well, and just get a taste of all that you all are doing, I think was really special. But for those who don't know, can you give more background on your foundation?
Yes. So when I was going through my battle with cancer, there were a lot of dark days. I had the day where the doctor tells you, we're not sure how this is going or if you're going to make it. And it was really depressing and a lot of anxiety. And I just thought, if I am scared and depressed and anxious every day, I'm not going to make it anyway. And so I really started to just do joyful things every day. I started a band. I started playing the piano again. And you might call it a bucket list, but it really was more of like, this is an intentional way I'm living every day, so that the anxiety and the depression and fear that is sitting in my body is not controlling my day. And so I want to keep living that way, even though, I'm doing well. I've had clean scans. They're considering me almost in remission. I want to keep living that way and have that joyful peace. And I want to help others kind of tap into that for themselves. So we're really dedicated to it. The thing I'm really proud of that I'd love to get publicity for is we do a $10,000 Alex Wilcox Memorial Scholarship. And we will be soon taking applications for this next fall semester. This will be our third year giving out a big scholarship to a young player who has been impacted by cancer. And so this past season, our player, she had been going through Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she'd just gotten her port taken out like in January. And then she started her softball season and played college softball. And, we were able to bring a little pitcher from Arkansas who's 15 years old. She's going through Hodgkin's lymphoma. We were able to bring her and her family to the Women's College World Series so that she can see something beyond her treatments and scans and what's scary for her right now. That maybe one day you're going to beat this and you'll be pitching at the Women's College World Series and you get to see the best pitchers in the game. So we are just really dedicated to, one, keeping Alex Wilcox memory alive. Alex's story as a player that played at Mississippi State and eventually lost her battle with ovarian cancer. But I want to keep her name alive. I want someone always playing softball in Alex Wilcox's name, I had a moment at the World Series this year where our scholarship winner was there sitting there watching Mississippi State play. And, all the Mississippi State players have their teal bows in their hair, and they keep the legacy of Alex Wilcox alive. And our scholarship winner was sitting there in the stands watching them play. And I just, I started crying like, oh, Alex, you're here with us. This is so precious.
That is so meaningful and impactful. And I think very special with everything that you do in sports, that one of the first projects that you do with your foundation came from softball or is tied to
Yes.
softball. That was a very cool thing in the middle of all this goodness that you all are doing.
Yeah. Well, Alex was going through her battle the same time I was going through mine. And so she was a huge inspiration to me. She was coming back from chemo, and then she would go to practice and try to play in games. And, the famous wall sit challenge that we all started after, I got to sit down with her parents recently, and we talked about that. As she drove straight from chemo, gets out of the car, and her outfielders at Mississippi State had done something. So they were getting punished. And the coach was like, get on the wall. And so they go and they have to, you squat, your back's on the wall, squat your legs down. And she did it for, I think it was 4 minutes and 38 seconds or something like that. And just try that at home. It's really hard. And she did that right after going through chemo. So she was a huge inspiration, not just to me, but I think for a lot of people in softball. And I hope her legacy lives forever.
Well, and part of the reason it will is because people like you are continuing to tell her story.
Yes.
And yes, wall sits are no joke.
Oh my gosh, they're hard.
That is
Very hard.
Wow. I think that's the other thing that stands out to me about your career, maybe just who you are as I'm getting to know you as a person too, is that you show up. And I mean that whether that's physically showing up somewhere, whether it's emotionally showing up somewhere, but investing time, whatever that looks like, showing up is something that it seems like is important to you.
It is important to me. It's a great way to say it is I do show up. So I had this was a cute story. So we're doing the Women's College World Series, and it's long, it's hot. You get done at Oklahoma City, and I fly the very next day and do a WNBA game. And then I host a convention for the college sports communicators. And that day I fly back to Salt Lake City just to get back in time for the AUSL Talons opening day. And then the next morning I flew to Italy. So I had to make all these moving pieces and all these chess pieces work. But I was like, I am showing up for day one of the Utah Talons. I know they played on a rotating format last year, but this was the first year that I had a pro softball team in my hometown where I live in Salt Lake City. And I was showing up for that. And so I'm just so proud of where softball is right now. The pro women are crushing it. We have the AUSL Championship Series coming up. And I'm really devastated because I begged my boss to work that. As soon as I found out that we had it 7 months ago, I called him. I was like, I want to work that. And it's just happening to be on the same day as the WNBA All-Star Game that are celebrating their 30-year anniversary. So if there were two of me, I would be in both places. But I wish I could be in College Station because that's going to just absolutely be epic softball. And I cannot wait for them to be so, I know it's going to be sold out. I know it's going to be a vibe. I know it's going to be incredible. And I know they're going to get incredible ratings on television. I think the game Saturday is on ABC, and that is just absolutely huge for softball. I'm so proud of ESPN and our company and ABC for giving women this platform. It's just going to be huge. But you're right, that all circles back to I am going to show up because this is something important to building women's sports, building pro softball in the future. And whatever I have to do to help, I am going to show up for that.
And actually, one of the things I was thinking about when I said that was you showing up to the AUSL in Salt Lake City. You're a Utah alum. You're, you
Yes.
hometown, all of those things.
Yes.
That's where you live. You wanted to support that. And I know you appeared during the broadcast as well,
Yes.
sharing some of your thoughts. And
I did the opening pitch, and I'm so mad because I had been practicing and I had some pretty decent pitches in the bullpen because I wanted to make sure, it was real, the ladies do it and honor them. And then I got out there and I was so terrified. My heart was beating out of my chest. I don't know how these pitchers do it, but everyone's eyes are on you. And I panicked and my body got tight and I panicked and I just kind of and it was just like not a good pitch. I could do it so much better, and I had done it so much better, and I'm really regretting that. But it gives you a lot of appreciation. I do not know, particularly pitchers, because they are the ones in the circle and like they're having to make these mistakes and minute little changes with all eyes on them. It is terrifying out there. I was terrified, and I just have so much respect for these women.
I think that's so fair. I have thrown one first pitch before.
How did you do?
I did okay. It was a little high. I don't know that it was a strike, to be honest, but it was sort of similar. Like I practiced because I was like, I am too
be embarrassed
too anxious anyway. And and like I was like, I need to focus here. And it wasn't as good as probably my practice pitches, but it is true because I think the moment as well, you know what it signifies. Like this is, you want to do the competition in the women that are about to play justice also, right? So then you start to kind of take on some of that as well. And you're like, it's just a pitch. I need to relax. But
no, it's one, I don't want to be embarrassing. Two, I want them to know that I care about how they're doing. I'm not going to go overhanded. I'm going to, and I tried to open up my hips and, I tried to like honor them with all the little things. But it really gives you a great perspective of, when Tegan Kavan is out there trying to, win the World Series and if bases are loaded, it really gives you an appreciation for what command they must have mentally and physically to perform and to be so fine-tuned. They have to be perfect from the stride, the hip angle, the shoulder. Think of all of the moving parts in a pitch. I just, oh my gosh, I respect them so much. It's incredible. Incredible.
So much has to go right.
Exactly.
All of that, like you said, the pitch call in itself, the preparation for so many things have to go right to do what Tegan Kavan did.
Yes.
And that she's now done more than once. It's pretty crazy.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And I think the fact that you talk so much about softball, shine a light on softball, and also women's basketball, whether that's collegiately or the WNBA, like you said, is wonderful. But then you're also in football, like you mentioned. I think there's this element of, elevating women's sports, but then also breaking barriers for women in men's sports. Both things are worthwhile, right? And exactly things for people who are coming after you. How do you kind of balance that approach, though, of both of those?
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody always asks me what's my favorite sport to cover. And that's a hard thing. It's like picking which of your children is your favorite. But I have to say, like, I've really dedicated most of my life to college football, so I think maybe in some ways it's college football because I went to games with my dad when I was 5 years old. I have a whole kind of history and tradition tied up in college football with my dad and this little girl that fell in love with football. And that really has been a driving force through my whole life. So this year I got to be the first woman in EA Sports college football, the video game. And this is going to sound so dumb, but that meant a lot to me because I was like, my voice will live forever in some video game that they thought highly enough of me to put me into. And that meant a lot to me. This will be my 32nd year covering college football. I've had to show up every Saturday for 32 years. I've missed one game in 32 years.
Wow.
But one time I did 2 games in one day during the whole crazy COVID year. I did a game at Michigan State, and then I drove over and did a game at Michigan that night. So I think those 2 games count for one. So I'm going to pretend like I've never missed a game. But like you have to love it. It's a little bit like softball. It is hot. It is cold. It is freezing. It is windy. It is like this truly has been a love of a lifetime, like a labor of love to show up every Saturday for 32 years. That's amazing. And I truly do love it. So I'm proud of my history and my legacy that I have built in college football. Because again, I have shown up.
Yes, you've shown up. And I love when women describe it as like, yes, I'm trying to help open the door for people behind me, but I'm also trying to hold the door open for next people to come. And I feel like that is your approach as well. Right.
Like if you're not good, I talk about this with Doris Burke a lot. She's one of my best friends. She was the first woman to call an NBA final for a national network. And we talk a lot about this there is some pressure and there is some desired, you better kick ass. You better really be good, because if you're not good, the next person won't get that opportunity. And there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with it, and a lot of, haters or whatever, for women in general, and the misogyny that's out there. But you just have to keep grinding, and you have to keep showing up and being the best version of yourself. And it's important, because if I don't do it, or if I haven't been doing it, maybe the next young woman doesn't get the same opportunity. So like, there is that, I want to be good, one, for myself and my own personal pride, but also because I want the next generation to be taken seriously. And if I'm not good, that's going to hurt the next generation.
Right. How do you deal with haters? Because
I'm not good with it, because I am like such a people pleaser. So it really hurts my heart when people say mean things. But I do think, that the athletes today, I've learned a lot from athletes. Like, they've taught me a lot of lessons of, not looking at it, not taking someone's opinion online. But also, it's easy to sit on your couch and say something negative. I'm out here doing the work. Like, I'm trying. And you're not. You're sitting on your couch. So I don't really care what you say to me, because, there's the famous poem about the man in the arena. I'm the woman in the arena. I'm the one out here doing it and doing the work. And so just by virtue of getting off my couch, I know I'm better than you. So there we go.
I love that thought process. I think about the man in the arena, that concept, all the time. Anytime maybe I start to doubt creeps in, right? Or you start to worry about other people's opinions. You're like, wait a minute. Let me back up.
Yeah, we actually had this. This relates to softball. I'll leave you with this. I know I'm talking too much, but this year we had a really interesting thing because of the Texas Tech story, right? And so, I've known Jerry for a long time. I think we have a great relationship. I love that dude. He's been through so much. I covered his daughter when she played at Georgia. Jerry Ann. I feel a close affinity to their family in general. Yep. And we're doing the Texas Tech games. And if we talk about the transfers, the Texas Tech fans are crushing us on social media. Like, why are you talking about the transfer? Blah, 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 blah. And so, I actually did have a long conversation with people about, are we doing this too much? Is this inappropriate how we're doing it? Are we missing the boat? I do think sometimes feedback is good, right?
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion that they were wrong. We had to talk about Texas Tech transfers. It's half their roster. It's more than half their roster. We'd never seen anything like it before, with the quality and quantity of transfers that one program had received in one season. Right. And so I felt like there is a way that you have to say this, here's the story, this bulk of the roster transferred. This is why it's a story. During the course of the game, you have to say, Taylor Pano transferred from Tennessee, and that's why there might be some drama here in this game. We're not trying to be sensationalist with it or biased with it. We actually just have to cover the facts. And those were the facts for this particular team this year. Now, you look at what's happening in the transfer portal this year. Texas has a lot of transfers coming in. This is going to be a storyline for Texas this next season. Not to the extent and not the number of players that Texas Tech had, but Texas got a lot of transfers. Guess what? Oklahoma got a lot of transfers. We covered it the same way of how many people they had come in and transfer into their program when they were winning programs. And so, I don't think it's biased. I don't think it's unfair. I think we can present the information factually.
Right.
But I do think it was interesting to, hey, let's have a conversation about this. Let's take the fan feedback and be like, how are we presenting this? Is this fair? Is this right? Blah, 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 blah. I do think there are some cases where there is good feedback on social media, of hey, let's just reassess how we're covering this and make sure we feel good about how we're covering this story. I think that could be healthy in some respects.
Yeah. I feel like the trick is evaluating when to absorb it and when not to.
Right.
That's where it gets complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you experience this too, of how you're covering something is no matter how you cover something, someone's going to be unhappy with it. So I've run into this so many times where fans will be like, you're only talking about one team. I'm like, yeah, they're the only team scoring right now. Right. In the course of a broadcast, that would just be cray-cray if I'm just only talking about the losing team. And I am really conscientious. I've even hit the producer and talked back many a time. hey, we're a little heavy on this team right now. Hey, I want to get some stories in about this team. Like, I am consciously doing this mental balancing, have we done enough about this team? Have we done it? But there are times where the performance dictates you're only talking about one team. It's a run rule game. It's a blowout. Of course, you're only going to be talking about one team. So I just, that's a hard thing. I wish fans could wrap your mind around that a little bit more. Like, that's the nature of the competitive balance of the game. So that's natural.
Well, you're reporting on, calling, commentating on what is happening in front of us, right? Like that is the part that, fans don't always understand, because that's the part where it's like, no, we have to do our job, right?
Right.
Like, this is what our job is.
This is the facts of what is happening right now and on your screen. Yes.
Right. Like, you didn't get to get that LSU story in because they weren't winning the game. They weren't, it wasn't the right time, those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And just trust me, I always have 700 stories prepared for both teams. I always am very fair in my preparation, and I have got equal and loving coverage and wonderful stories about everybody. But the game is going to dictate what we talk about. So, and which of those stories get in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question before a quick fun wrap up that we do.
Okay.
But I would ask you maybe a loaded question, but what is the women's sports community doing well right now, in your opinion? What would we be doing better?
Oh, this is a great question. I think the women's sports community is doing well, are being awesome fans, like showing up. We are selling out stadiums. We are creating this visibility for women's sports that is, then the money is coming. So brands, so it all starts with this very organic thing. If there are eyeballs, if there are fans, if there are social media followers, or if there are clicks, if there are viewer and rating numbers, then the money follows and the brands come, right? Because they want to capture those viewers and those eyeballs. So I think that the fans showing up is the number one most incredible thing. And it's happening because the players are so good and the product is so good. So I think those things are very synergistic. Like, if you sit in a stadium, it is pure happiness. It is loud. It is fun. It is so positive, even trash talking or whatever, respectfully, it's so good. I think the thing that that sports community is not doing well is the online vitriol. So I'll give you an example for this. There were parents, I'm not going to name names, but I think everybody knows who they are, or they know who they are. Parents going back and forth, or parents or donors calling coaches names and then being proven wrong. And I just think that adults and the parents, particularly parents, I'm talking to you, you need to stay off social media when it comes to your kids. You're embarrassing your kids. You are creating drama and stories around that are not fair to your kids. You're taking attention away from them and their performance. You are making it harder for your kids by your behavior on social media. And that's not okay to me. I'm a parent. I've definitely done things. Like, I remember calling a teacher once for my son when he was in college and kind of like getting on this teacher for something. And she was like, I can't even talk to you about this. Your son's an adult and I can't talk to you about this. And I was so mortified. I was like, oh my God, of course I can't. And what am I doing? And rein it back in, Holly Rowe. And like, I get it. Parents are passionate, and we've invested a lot of money and time and energy into our kids. This online stuff has got to stop. It is distracting, and it is creating anxiety for your children. So that is what we can do better.
It's a great point, because there already are a lot of challenges in terms of mental health and everything that young people, especially athletes at this point, are holding, and carrying, let alone anything added like this. Yeah.
Yeah, we had an athlete in women's basketball wins the most outstanding player, award at the Final Four, and her parents put out this TikTok that was so like kind of sexual innuendo and really just awful, and it kind of went viral. So the night she wins the most outstanding player award, her parents take that attention off of her with their TikTok. Like, this just can't happen. Like, parents, it's not about you.
Yeah, it is counterproductive to all of it.
Yeah,
that's a great point. No, I felt like your insights that you shared in Oklahoma City too, just about how we think about women's sports as fans, as people who cover it, like all of those things, it's all important to the growth of it. And I found your insights really interesting and helpful.
Good.
Well, on that note, like I said, I do play a game with everybody to wrap up.
Okay.
Yes, it's called Safer Out. So you get to basically be the umpire. I'm going to bring up a topic. If you like it or you agree with it, you call it safe. If not, then you call it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Pressure.
A little bit, but it's your opinion. So, but the first one is 2-hour TV slots for softball games.
Safe.
Okay.
We've got to keep it. Yes.
Explain to everybody.
So we've actually been fighting for this at ESPN, and we have actually talked with the NCAA and the coaches association of like how to speed up the game. The reason softball really took off in viewership, in my opinion, is one, the skill of the athlete, but two, it was a quick game and viewers could sit down, watch it. It was quick. It wasn't long. The complaint that a lot of people have about baseball right now is how long the games are. Well, baseball goes to the pitch clock. They go to the, they implement some things. So baseball games are getting shorter. Well, now that's competing with softball and the ratings. And so we want people watching softball. We want the ratings to be incredible. That all improves when it's a 2-hour game, when it's a 2-hour programming slot. Not only that, but I can't speak to all the programming things. It's better for programming windows and the way programming throughout the course of a sports day flows if it can stay in a 2-hour window. I am super annoyed right now. This is so funny. So Clint Myers, he will understand. If anyone who ever watched Clint Myers walk out to the circle, the slowest walk in the history of coaches walking, and I teased him about that. He knows that I'm saying this in good fun, but like these constant conferences, it's just like it slows the game down. So like, let your athletes play, trust your athletes to do their job. They're signaling for a reason. You have plenty of time in the dugout to talk about things. I think it's really important for the game to go. And I'm sure you're probably doing this game. It should have been a quick safer out and then just move on. But here I've gone on a nutshell.
I'm sorry. The explanation.
Yeah.
Especially
2-hour windows. Yes.
People have opinions about this. And
it's important.
I think everyone would love for it to be a 2-hour game when it goes over 2 hours. And so then it like bleeds into whatever the next thing is on the programming. How does that affect?
Yeah, it's negative because in one respect, like we all love drama, we all love extra innings to some extent, but like if a game bleeds over, so let's say you're playing a game and it's not a great game and it's long and it's, not a lot of scoring and not a lot's going on. And then it keeps bleeding into the next window. That next game gets gypped, what we call joined in progress. And so now the viewers who were going to tune in at the top of the hour for that next game,
right?
Either they stay, do they come back? Do they stick around? They don't know when, like it impacts the viewership for the next game too. And, sometimes you'll come to a game, you'll get gypped and it's like 2-1. It's like, oh my gosh, I missed half the action. And so it's just, the trickle down effect is not great. So I'm a big proponent for the 2-hour window.
Yeah. So would it not help TV if they made it like a 2.5-hour window for softball?
Oh yeah, for sure. But, do you want to sit through a 2.5-hour game? Like, is that the best use of your time? Right. So like the reason softball has been super popular is viewers will tell you this. I can sit down and watch it and it's quick and there's action and it's different than baseball.
Yeah.
That's important to keep our viewership, in my opinion.
It's true. I just had recently Olivia Pichardo, the first woman to play NCAA Division I baseball at Brown. I had her on the show and she said herself, I was like, I'm going to quote you on this later. She was like, softball is so much more fun to watch by far. And the first thing she mentioned was the pace of the game. And
right.
How it moves.
And it's not just that it's a 2-hour time slot. It's that if it fits into 2 hours, that means the game was moving and it was fun and there weren't lulls. And, it's more than just like this arbitrary time. It's like the game was fun to watch because it was moving along quickly. That's good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that insight because that is a question that pops up a lot with fans. So I appreciate that. So the second one is, I would ask you, video review. Safe or out?
Safe. So so this Now we're backtracking because video review can make games longer.
Right.
If it's done well, the video replay center, I felt like at the World Series, we didn't have a lot of lengthy reviews this year. So, if they do it correctly, where it's, whether it's the SEC or the ACC, whatever, the command center is watching this back and it's quick and it's done, great. We want the right call on the field. And I think, particularly in postseason, because the stakes are so high, you have to be right. Can they be quicker? Yes. Is that the goal? Yes. So, all those things correlate a little bit, but I like that we have video review because we want to get it right.
Yeah.
We just want it to be efficient and quick.
Yeah. I mean, and umpires want to get it right too.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
helps when you don't have Appendix G and some of those crazy things.
Yeah. Nobody wants that. We never want to talk about appendix anything ever again in a World Series broadcast. Yeah.
That was wild. Okay. Well, the last one is bat flips. Safe or out?
Safe. I love them. I know there's this component of respect for your opponents and respect to the game, but I'm sorry, I really like it because I want people to have energy and be themselves. And I'm a dramatic person. I don't mind a little drama. Now, I will say this. The only bat flips that ever bugged me, and I'm saying this with love, Alyssa Brito, I'm looking at you. I'm saying this with love. The bat flip on a walk, maybe not on a walk.
Yeah.
Maybe I love all the enthusiasm to cheer for yourself, but the walk bat flip, maybe not so much. Every other bat flip, I'm here for.
I think that's fair. I mean, my mind would sometimes go to, why are we chucking our bats in the dirt? Like, those are expensive pieces of equipment.
Oh.
It used to be very like, take care of your equipment, Like
Yeah.
So that's where my head goes sometimes too.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that part of it, but no, I like a good bat check. Like, so Katie Stewart, she's one of my favorites because she is just like, I don't think she's trying to show anybody up. She's not like a big drama personality. And so she had a big bat flip this postseason. And I loved it because it was just so organic. Like she's not going to be a disrespectful, look at me person. And so it was so natural and organic. So I never would criticize that because it was just like in the moment and the feeling she had. I loved it.
That's the key. The authentic aspect. That's the
Yes.
key to a
Yes.
flip. Yeah. Well, thank you for this, Holly. This was awesome.
Yay.
It was so great to
Yay.
connect with you again. And I know we're already looking forward to your next round of football starting.
I know.
Another
Crazy.
year. Yeah.
Softball season will be here before you know it. It'll be February before you know it. So
It's true. We're going to be in Clearwater.
we'll be in Clearwater again. Yes. Yes.
Thank you again, Holly. Can't wait to see everything else that you do.
Yeah. And thank you. I want to say thank you to you. You do such a great job with your coverage. And I know that you are grinding and you are creating for yourself and working really hard at this and to create your own platform. And I want you to know we see you and we honor you. And I'm going to get emotional. I think I got emotional when I saw you at the event too. But like, I was you one day, I was you not that long ago where I was just trying to get stories on and grind. And so I'm just proud of you. I appreciate young people who are trying so hard for their dream and to make it happen. So keep it going. I see you.
I appreciate that. And like I said, at the World Series, like you said some similar sentiments. And I was like, wow, I really actually needed to hear that. And I appreciate people like you, like I said, not just opening the door, but holding it open for us as well.
Of course. Thank you.
Holly Rowe is one of the biggest voices in women's sports and beyond. And I love that softball means so much to her and just how committed she is to telling the stories in our game. And another one who truly just believes in softball, and I'm personally grateful for her support as well. So with that, let's bring it home. You've been listening to Bleav in Softball, part of Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. The show is available anywhere you get your podcasts, wherever you listen, including Bleav.com and YouTube too. Subscribe to the show, rate the show, and if you liked it, write a review. Follow us on X and Instagram at Bleav in Softball. Again, that's BLEAV. And you can reach out to me personally on X at Jenna Becerra01 and Instagram at Jenna Becerra as well. So keep keeping up with new episodes every other week this season. And as always, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.